Let's turn to Europe now, where press freedom is under threat. You don't hear that every day, but it's true. A German organization has flagged this issue. They worked with 27 rights groups in 19 European countries. And what did they find? Let me quote from the report. Media freedom and pluralism still stand perilously close to the breaking point in many EU countries and must be almost fully resuscitated in some. That's a damning assessment. It says press freedom is at breaking point in Europe. Talk about a role reversal. The EU has spent years lecturing others on media freedom. I guess they forgot their own issues. But what are these issues? This report highlights a number of them. One of them is ownership. A big chunk of publications is owned by a handful of people. This is the case in Croatia, France, Hungary, and Poland. Another issue is censorship, especially in publicly owned media. In Hungary, the state broadcaster is completely under government control. There are similar fears in Croatia and Italy. A third issue is that of the safety of journalists. Physical attacks were reported in multiple countries like Croatia, France, Germany, and Greece. Some journalists were also spied upon. Such cases were reported in Germany, Greece, and Poland. They were victims of foreign spyware like Pegasus and Predator. Finally, we have trust issues. Do Europeans trust their media agencies and publications? Turns out not really. In Slovakia, public trust in media is 27%. In Greece, it's just 19%. In the Czech Republic, 30%. In France, 37%. And in Hungary, 25%. So in these countries, trust is quite low, but others are slightly better off. Like in Germany, around 65% trust the news media. In Estonia, around 59% do. So the big takeaway is this: European media does have problems, whether it's government meddling, censorship, or trust deficit. And what is Brussels doing about it? Well, last year they passed a new law. It's called the Media Freedom Act. The idea is to protect media agencies and journalists, and a few provisions do stand out, like transparency in ownership, making sure people know who owns what. Another provision is fair division of state advertising. You see, government ads make a big chunk of media income everywhere in the world. So the idea is to split them fairly, to make sure that all media groups get these government ads. And finally, protecting the work of journalists. Things like guarding your source or legal protection against snooping. All of these may sound like basic things, but it's important to put them in writing. The question is, will this actually solve the problem? It's not a guarantee. Any law depends on its implementation. If the governments are serious about it, then yes, the situation could improve. But in this case, governments are part of the problem. There are two kinds of leaders in Europe. One who try to control the media, and the other who think that their media is perfect. And both types are problematic. Just look at French President Macron. He considers himself to be a champion of the free press. He's raised the issue in other countries, like Turkey. But at home, his record is not that good. French journalists say Macron has curtailed press freedom. Dozens of them have been arrested and attacked on the job. Another example is Germany. Their Chancellor Olaf Scholz met Azerbaijan's president last week. And what did they discuss? Again, press freedom. Scholz said Azerbaijan has room for improvement. Well, so does Germany. Let me tell you what happened last year. German prosecutors wiretapped journalists. That's right. Their target was a climate activist group called Last Generation, and Berlin thought that this group was dabbling in criminal activities. So what did they do? They tapped phone calls between journalists and activists. And don't get us wrong, Europe is not a dangerous place for journalists. It's not like China or West Asia. But it's not perfect either. Yet they go around criticizing other countries, including India. You may ask, why don't these countries do the same? Sort of like a tit for tat. Because every country operates differently. You don't see India or Brazil talking about press freedom in Europe. They can if they want to, but that's not their style. And Europe needs to understand this. They must fix their own house before lecturing others. Maybe start with this report. It's got 45 pages of problems and suggestions. Clearly, it's a good place to start.